Hey everybody, tonight we're diving into a topic that's often misunderstood and frequently mishandled: migration. Specifically, we're talking about migration from Africa to Western countries, a topic that's become increasingly fraught with political tension and frankly some pretty awful rhetoric. You see, there's been a noticeable shift in how we talk about migration. It's no longer just about numbers or statistics, it's become a political football, kicked around by those seeking to exploit fear and division. We hear about swarms of migrants overwhelming borders, language that dehumanizes individuals and fuels a narrative of fear and resentment. This kind of rhetoric ignores the complex realities of migration, reducing it to a simple equation of us versus them. But here's the thing, it's simply not that simple. Migration is a deeply human phenomenon driven by a complex interplay of factors, and it's high time we start talking about it honestly. Now, some folks like to paint migration as a matter of individual choice, as if people are just hopping on boats for a change of scenery. But let's be real, folks. The decision to leave your home, your family, your entire life behind is rarely a choice made lightly. Migration is often a last resort, driven by factors far beyond an individual's control. We're talking about poverty so extreme it makes survival a daily struggle. We're talking about conflict and violence that tear communities apart. We're talking about climate change that's turning once fertile lands into barren wastelands. These are not personal failings. These are systemic issues, deeply rooted in historical injustices and exacerbated by global inequalities. To understand migration, we need to look beyond individual stories and confront the larger forces at play. We need to acknowledge that Western countries, for all their talk of freedom and opportunity, have played a significant role in creating the very conditions that drive people to flee their homes.
The decision to leave is never easy. It's not just about seeking a better life, it's about survival. When you can't feed your children, when your home is no longer safe, what choice do you have? We don't want to leave. We have to.
Now, I know what you're thinking. John, are you about to launch into a lecture on colonialism? Well, buckle up, buttercups, because history matters. We can't talk about migration without acknowledging the long shadow of colonialism and its lasting impact on Africa. For centuries, European powers carved up the African continent like a Thanksgiving turkey, exploiting its resources and people for their own gain. They drew arbitrary borders, pitting ethnic groups against each other, and imposed systems of governance that benefited the colonizers, not the colonized. And even after the era of direct colonial rule ended, Western powers continued to exert their influence, propping up dictators, meddling in elections, and prioritizing their own economic interests over the needs of African nations.
This legacy of interference has left many African countries grappling with instability, corruption, and a lack of economic opportunity, all factors that contribute to the very conditions that drive migration. To put it bluntly, Western countries haven't just been bystanders in this story. They've been active participants, shaping the political and economic landscapes that many migrants are fleeing from.
Now, faced with this complex issue, some politicians have a remarkably simplistic solution. Close the borders, build walls, deploy troops, keep them out. It's a tempting narrative playing on people's fears and offering a seemingly easy fix. But here's the kicker: it doesn't work. Closing borders might seem like a way to control migration, but in reality it's like putting a band-aid on a gaping wound. It does nothing to address the underlying causes of migration and often makes the situation worse. Desperate people will always find ways to move, even if it means resorting to more dangerous and costly routes. Closing borders simply pushes migration underground, enriching smugglers and traffickers who prey on vulnerable people. It's like trying to stop a river with a chain-link fence. It's not going to work, and you're just going to make a mess.
We need to shift our focus from building barriers to addressing the root causes of migration. Sustainable development, conflict resolution, and climate action are the real solutions. It's time we start investing in people, not walls.
So, if closing borders isn't the answer, what is?
Well, it starts with acknowledging that the fate of Western countries and African nations are interconnected. Instead of viewing migration as a threat, we need to recognize it as a symptom of deeper issues that demand our attention and action.
The key lies in addressing the root causes of migration by investing in stability and opportunity in Africa. This means supporting good governance, promoting economic development, and addressing the impacts of climate change.
Imagine a world where people don't feel forced to flee their homes in search of a better life. Imagine a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive in their own communities.
That's the world we should be striving for, and it's a world that's within our reach if we have the political will to make it happen. Section 6, from aid to partnership, rethinking development assistance. Now, I know some people hear investment in Africa and immediately think foreign aid. But it's not just about throwing money at the problem, it's about fundamentally rethinking how we approach development assistance.
We need to move away from the outdated model of top-down aid and towards a more equitable and sustainable approach based on partnership and collaboration. This means listening to the needs and priorities of African nations, supporting locally driven solutions, and fostering genuine partnerships that empower African communities.
It's about investing in education, healthcare, and infrastructure. It's about promoting fair trade practices that benefit both sides. It's about creating an environment where businesses can thrive and people can build better lives for themselves and their families. Section 7, Beyond Borders, the power of global cooperation. Look, the challenges facing the world today, from climate change to poverty to conflict, are too complex for any one nation to solve alone. We live in an interconnected world, and our destinies are inextricably linked.
Instead of retreating behind walls of fear and suspicion, we need to embrace the power of global cooperation. We need to work together to create a more just, equitable, and sustainable world for all. This means strengthening international institutions, fostering dialogue between nations, and working collaboratively to address shared challenges.
It means recognizing that our shared humanity transcends borders and that we have a moral obligation to stand up for the rights and dignity of all people, regardless of where they come from. Section 8, the moral imperative, why we must act now. Now, I know this might sound a bit idealistic, but I truly believe that a more just and compassionate world is possible. But it won't happen overnight, and it won't happen without a fight.
We need to challenge the fear-mongering and xenophobia that have poisoned the debate on migration. We need to hold our leaders accountable for their words and actions. And most importantly, we need to raise our voices and demand a more humane and effective approach to migration. One that recognizes our shared humanity and embraces the power of cooperation.
This isn't just about politics, it's about who we are as human beings. It's about standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult. Section 9, a future built together, embracing migration, embracing humanity. The future we build will be determined by the choices we make today. We can choose to build walls of division and fear, or we can choose to build bridges of understanding and cooperation. We can choose to see migration as a threat, or we can choose to see it for what it truly is, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a source of diversity and innovation, and an opportunity to build a better future together. So let's choose hope over fear. Let's choose compassion over indifference. Let's choose to build a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive, regardless of where they were born or where they choose to call home. And that's the world I want to live in, and I hope you'll join me in making it a reality. That's our show, everybody. Good night.